Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your entrepreneurship tutor, Professor Henry Bwisa of Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology in Kenya. Today, I want to demystify strategic planning. I want to attempt to make it as easy as A, B, C. Yes. But then, what is strategic planning? People and organizations, whether they are for profit or not for profit, generally desire two very important goals. Me and you, we desire two important goals. The first goal is survival. That is, to continue to exist for many years to come. Nobody and no organization wishes to fall into decline and even disappear. Well, it is said that everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Yes, nobody wants to disappear, although we want to go to heaven. Now, the second goal is prosperity. That is, people and organization want their future to be better than the present. Unfortunately, organizations do fall into decline and some disappear. Yes, we have that which is called the product life cycle, which can also be the business life cycle. Yes, over here, you develop your business. At this time, there are no sales and time is passing. So when there are no sales, there's no profit. But then you introduce your business after a period of development. Now, when you introduce, the sales are zero, but they start rising. Now, commerce people will call it a question mark. Question mark. You don't know where you're going. You don't know where you'll reach there. You don't know how to go, so you are struggling. And then after some time, the business grows. That's growth. Or now it becomes a star, a rising star. And after further time, it matures, saturation, and now just cash cow, bringing you profits. You sit back and enjoy. The sales are at the peak. And then you sit back and be compliant, and it will start declining the dogs. So after some time, the business will decline. It is introduced, it grows, it matures, and actually it can decline. Unfortunately, that's what happens to quite a number of businesses. Even people and even trees do decline. Look, a baby is born, equivalent to question mark. Will this baby survive? Will mortality be too high? Then the baby starts growing like a rising star, and then matures, becomes a mature person. And of course, you'll age and decline. So the life of a business and the life of a person can be likened. And indeed, even a trees. Look, a seedling, growing, mature, and it can die. So life, whether for people, whether for businesses, whether for animals, it follows this shape, circle. And now, yet, we want to leave long legacies. Look, we want our business, when the business declines, we want to introduce another one or a new product for that matter and another one so that we keep on existing. There it is. Introduction, like we said, growth, maturity, decline, but we want not to decline. We want extension. This is what we wish and we want to be. And indeed, when one declines, we want it to keep on keeping on, so to speak. Just like generations. If you have a business, if this lady had a business, wants to pass it on to the daughter, and this one pass it on to the daughter, pass it on to the daughter, and so on and so forth. This is what we want, that the businesses to continue, even in family businesses. We want to, succession management, want to pass it on and go on and go on. Unfortunately, not everything happens like we want. Look, now we're saying minor strategic planning, succession management from the grandfather up to the last sibling, last 5 generations, 6 generations, the grandfathers, the fathers, the daughters, and on and on. Minus strategic planning, succession becomes very difficult to achieve. Now, the management activity that gives people and organizations the best chance to achieve their long-term goals is strategic planning. Now, in any situation, for an organization or an individual, the basic purpose of strategic planning is to determine where you want to go and how you are going to get there. Yes, simple questions. Now, an individual, for example, might desire a particular career at some distant time in the future. Talk of your kids, your children. She or he has to consider what steps he or she must take over the next few years to obtain the qualifications and experience needed to be successful. Yes, we sent our kids to school so that they can, in the future, be, have a good life, be good citizens. Now, organizations, like individuals, must also determine what sort of future is desirable and then determine how this is to be achieved. Now, whenever an organization or an individual sets a course of action to be taken to achieve long-term goals, they are engaging in strategic planning. So strategic plans are important. Strategic planning is important. Yes, over time, I have done strategic plans and related assignments for a number of organizations and individuals. Suffice it to mention the Kenya Investment Authority, the United Nations Center for Regional Development, the UNCRD, African Union and the African Bureau for Animal Resources, AU-IBAR, the African Institute for Capacity Development, ICAD, the Kenya Institute of Bankers, Westlands Constituency in Nairobi, business organization and others. Yes, I have engaged in strategic planning for some time. Now, it looks fashionable to write many pages of a strategic plan, but I have now been persuaded that a strategic plan could be as short as answers to an irreducible 3 basic questions. That is, where are we now? Where do we want to be? How will we get there? That is irreducible 3 basic questions get answers to those questions, and you'd have done your strategic plan. So we are demystifying strategic planning. Now, let's look at a strategic planning process. Where are we now? Where do we want to be? And how will we get there? If you comprehensively answer those three questions, you have done your strategic plan. Now, that's where are we now? And then where we want to go. So take the position where you are and foresee where you want to go. And then you will answer the question, how do we get there? There it is. That is your strategic plan. It may not be pages and pages that we are used to. Now, where we want to go is the vision. What we want to achieve. Now, writing a vision is not just, a walk in the park. You need to envision. That's what entrepreneurship talks about. Envisioning. In fact, my letter E in entrepreneurship, the first E, is to envision. To long-term plan. Think ahead. Now, when you have envisioned, and writing a vision is also not a walk in the park. Second, the mission. You see, we first of all dream, envision, and then we come mission, what we now do. It's like what we do to achieve that vision. That becomes your mission. Indeed, writing a mission statement is also not simply a walk in the park. There are styles and ways and there are components of a mission statement that must be, or a must be. Now, once you have your mission, then you do your current situation. That's like a SWOT analysis. And for heaven's sake, don't do the SWOT analysis the traditional way. A SWOT analysis must have, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The strengths are your internal positive factors. The weaknesses are those internal negative factors, which must be addressed if you have to succeed. And the opportunities are those positive chances out there that they're waiting for you to grab. But the threats, yes, there are roadblocks, obstacles out there that will hinder your success. Now, once you have that step 3, then you are now ready to develop the strategies, saying what we need to do to get there. Indeed, the reason we do a SWOT analysis is so that we can get those 4 sets of strategies. Maxi strategies, the offensive strategies, the low-hanging fruits. Then the mini-maxi. Many times, we don't consider weaknesses, and just one weakness will spoil our road to success. So we must analyze the situation, the weaknesses and opportunities, and generate the mini-maxi strategies. These are the strategies that will go here. Maxi, mini, maximizing on the strength so that we can minimize threats, and then minimize, minimize all that weaknesses and threats. When you do that, then you are now on way to achieving your vision. So here you are. This is your strategic plan. As simple as this, as short as this. Of course, we can now elaborate it, and believe me or not, you don't need 50 pages. You don't need the pages that you see many of us, including myself, writing, or we have been writing. So we are now demystifying the strategic plan. The most important thing is the SWOT. Because the SWOT will carry you through analyzing the situation, internal and external, and that is what will make you generate the strategies. Many times we see strategic plans with the SWOT, but the SWOT is not analyzed. The SWOT has just been listing of the SWOT. And when you go to the strategies that we are implementing, not related at all to the SWOT, this may not make you arrive at that vision easily. Now, if you want to go beyond the 3 questions, then you might find questions like, okay, we already have where are we now? Then where do we want to be? And then how do we get there? Then you can add on other questions. Who must do what? Now that's the planning. How are we doing? That's the monitoring and evaluation. So yes, you can now add on, but there's now the add-on questions. The irreducible minimum is where are we now? Where do we want to be? And how do we get there? Once those are done, you are as good as done, but we can still add on those 2 questions. Yes, that is not me speaking now. It is from that source. But still, you can go up to 6 steps if you want. That means now just beefing up your strategic planning. Again, where are we? Where could we be? That's an additional now. Where are we? But where could we be? That means there could be alternatives. Where do we want to go? So once you have made the alternatives in where could we be, then you can now select the alternatives that you want, and therefore, where do we want to go? And then, how do we get there? And then, yes, how do we get there? And how do we get there? Part 1 and part 2. And then, are we getting there? So what are we saying? In choosing where we are, you need to execute several modes of research and investigation to develop a situation analysis that answers this question. To answer where could we be, the goal is to propose strategic options to answer this question. You try to create conservative, progressive, and aggressive options so that you are strong enough to know, yes, I chose the right option. And then when you talk about where do we want to go to answer this question, do it by selecting the best direction and deciding on the best strategic option. Here, stakeholders could come in. You're not doing it alone. You're doing it with the stakeholders, and therefore, the technique of doing stakeholder analysis can also be very useful. And then part 1 of how do we get there? No, those are the strategies. By this point, your destination will have defined a clear direction. Building a detailed roadmap under the draft of the multi-year strategic plan will now enable you to get this answer. And then part 2, how do we get there? These are the tactics and implementation, developing a series of tactical actions that will drive the achievement of the strategic objectives. And finally, are we getting there? This is simply monitoring and refining your strategy. So these are now additional questions. But remember, we said the 3, where are we? Where do we want to go? How do we get there? Are basic, very important. Whether you are an organization, whether you are an individual, whether you are a religious organization, a church, a mosque, whatever it is, it's very important. And even for your own children going to school, it is good to do that career planning. So, if you enjoyed it, please like it, share it, and subscribe. And if you wish to be guided further on this, then reach us. Bwehem@gmail.com. Call us +254 722 858507. Yes, have a strategic day, won't you?